I've learnt something about people and how they act over the years I've been walking around the world. Deep intelligence isn't just about how much you know, it's also about how you live, how you treat others, and how well you learn from your mistakes. But here's the catch. There are 6 clear signs that someone is, let's just say, lacking in wisdom. Now, before you roll your eyes or laugh at the thought of this list, let me explain why it's important. Finding these signs isn't about judging others. It's about self-reflection, growth, and yes, avoiding these pitfalls in our own lives. It's also about helping people who might not even be aware they're stuck in their own cycle of foolishness. So come with me on this journey of discovery. We'll find the 6 undeniable signs of a foolish person. Each one has a lesson, a story, and a mirror for us to reflect on. The path to wisdom always starts with awareness. Are you ready to go on this journey with me? Let's start with the first sign, which is a closed mind. A closed mind is the fortress of ignorance built, brick by brick, with fear, pride, and stuck in your ways. These kinds of people not only don't want to hear new ideas, but they also get in the way of their own growth. They live in a tight box where everything has to follow the rules they already know, and anything that isn't, that is seen as a threat. True confidence comes from knowing you can't know everything, so their confidence is often just a front. Mark was a department boss at a company where I used to work. Mark insisted that the old ways of doing things were best, even though it was clear that his team was falling behind rivals. When a younger worker suggested using current project management software to make things run more smoothly, Mark said no. Mark flatly turned down the idea, saying, "We've been doing it this way for 10 years, and it's worked fine." At the same time, other teams in the company made big steps forward. Mark's team had trouble because their processes weren't up to date and their performance was going down. Instead of admitting the problem, Mark blamed his employees, the market, and even luck. But he never thought about his own stubborn way of thinking. Having a closed mind doesn't just stop you from learning new things, it hurts everyone around you as well. Smart people, on the other hand, aren't afraid to say they don't know everything and are always ready to learn more. Stoic philosophy tells us that being wise isn't about always being right, but about being able to change and get better. If you see this trait in yourself or someone else at work, remember that being open to new ideas not only helps you grow as a person, but also makes the workplace more productive. Be brave enough to say, "I was wrong and I want to learn." Only when the walls of stubbornness fall down can true wisdom take hold. Sign 2. Root the second sign of always blaming. For stupid people, it's never their fault that a project failed, the market was too tough, or they missed a raise. There's no doubt that the boss was biased, but we all know that blame is just a way for them to avoid facing the truth. But that cover also stops them from growing. Lisa, an event organizer I used to work with, was in charge of planning a big conference. When it didn't go well because not enough people showed up, Lisa immediately blamed the marketing team for not promoting it well enough. But when the problem was looked into, it was found that Lisa had neglected to send the event details on time, which delayed the whole marketing campaign. Even so, she kept blaming others and wouldn't admit her own part in the failure. As a result, her co-workers lost trust in her, and Lisa eventually quit her job. Smart people own up to their mistakes, not because they like being criticized, but because they know that the truth gives them chances to get better. Stoic thought tells us that taking responsibility is the first step in living a fulfilling life. If you catch yourself blaming other people, stop and ask yourself, have I done everything I could have? Is there something I could have done differently? Blaming others won't change the result, but taking responsibility will. Smart people don't hide their mistakes. They learn from them, grow, and move on. You can too choose the path of truth, improvement, and greatness. The third sign of pride over sign 3, being humble. Has anyone ever been in a group where everyone is always trying to show how smart they are? That's the third sign of someone who is stupid. Being cocky. Not only does confidence hide nervousness, it's also the biggest thing that keeps people from growing and becoming wise. Smart people know how to listen more than they talk, because they know that learning is something you do all your life. Michael, a manager at a big company, would talk over other people in meetings, interrupt them, and even make fun of their ideas. When the company had a failed project, Michael blamed his team for not understanding his brilliant ideas, but it was actually his pride and refusal to listen that caused the failure. DeRay failed the whole project when his boss asked him to reflect. Michael couldn't think of a single good reason because he was too proud to see any chances to do better. Humility, on the other hand, doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking less of yourself. It puts learning and working together ahead of showing you're right. Stoic philosophy tells us that we can only become wise when we're willing to see things from new angles, and when we're willing to admit when we were wrong and learn from our mistakes. If you ever find yourself in the trap of arrogance, stop and ask yourself, am I looking for praise, or do I really want to grow? Being wise doesn't mean making other people feel small. It means giving them power. The truly wise let humility guide them because they know that real intelligence comes out when arrogance stops making noise. You can choose to be that wise person. The fourth sign, not having one of the obvious signs of stupidity, is not having empathy for others. Without empathy, you can't put yourself in their shoes, understand how they feel, or grasp what they're going through. People who live alone and don't have any important ties hurt others all the time without even realizing it. This lack doesn't just hurt relationships, it also makes people less interesting. Let me tell you about Paul, a co-worker. People like Paul often whined about project delays without ever trying to figure out why they happened. Susan, one of my co-workers, missed a deadline one time because her son was very sick. Paul criticized her in front of the team because he didn't care about Susan's situation. He only cared about the results he wanted. A year later, when Paul was in a similar situation taking care of his sick mother, he finally understood how his careless comments had hurt other people. Lack of humanity doesn't just make someone seem cold, it also keeps them from seeing how connections can help them learn and grow. Stoic philosophy tells us that real knowledge doesn't come from learning everything, but from having deep, important connections with other people. People who don't have empathy not only don't grow spiritually, but they also shut themselves off, leaving a mark of insensitivity that lasts. Remember that empathy is not a failure. It's the way to knowledge and humanity. When you take the time to really listen to someone, you not only help them, but you also learn important things about yourself. Having empathy makes the world a better place and helps you handle life's challenges with grace and understanding. If you feel like you lack empathy sometimes, try listening without judging. It will help you open your heart and mind, which will bring you closer to being truly yourself. 5 signs of wisdom. The fifth sign is being afraid of change. The safety zone is nice, but it's also a jail for people who don't like change. They hold on to old habits even when they're no longer helpful. They're like kids. People are afraid of the dark and don't want to leave what they know. But my friend, life is like a river. It runs, bends, and changes all the time. The smart people learn to adapt, tread, while the dumb people try to hold on to water and watch it slip through their fingers. Take Michael as an example. He lived all his life in a small neighborhood and knew everyone there. When his grown children told him he should move to a new area with more chances, he did. Michael said, "I know everyone here, so why should I go somewhere else?" But then things started to change in the neighborhood. Old friends moved away. Shops that were known to everyone closed down. Michael realized that the world around him was still moving forward, even though he didn't want to. In the end, he chose to move closer to his kids, and that's when he found that the new place not only made him feel better, but it also gave him chances he never thought possible. Fear of change not only keeps us in the safe zone, but it also stops us from getting to know new things. Stoic philosophy tells us that we can only live a full life if we accept change with an open heart. If you're trying to avoid change, ask yourself what the worst and best things that could happen are for you. Things change all the time, so you need to learn how to go with the flow. Remember that resisting change only keeps you stuck in fear. The sixth sign is talking more than listening. Have you ever seen a family member who insists they know everything? They talk over everyone else, interrupt all the time, and rarely take the time to listen to others. This is a clear sign of someone who talks more than they listen. This is a hallmark of foolishness. They love the sound of their own voice and often don't care about other people's points of view, which not only causes tension, but also hurts family relationships. Let me tell you a story about John, a father I used to know. Every night at dinner, John would take over the conversation. His kids would try to talk about what they did at school, but John would often cut them off to tell his great stories when his wife suggested changes that would help the family's finances. John flatly turned down her suggestions, saying that his way was the only way. What was sad was that John didn't realize how much his actions were making his family feel ignored and unimportant. His failure to listen caused a split, making everyone feel ignored and disrespectful. If you want to be a good listener, you have to pay attention and understand what other people are saying. Stoic philosophy tells us that the best way to learn and grow is to listen. It's in silence that we find deep knowledge and wisdom. Talking without hearing is like planting seeds in barren ground. Nothing will grow. If you relate to John's story, now is the time to change how you act the next time your child talks about their day or your partner shares their thoughts. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Try to understand. By doing this, you'll not only improve family relationships, but you'll also create a place where people love and respect each other. Remember that the wise person listens, while the foolish person only talks. That's all 6 signs of a stupid person. Before you click away and start to wonder if I'm crazy, hold on a second. The truth is that all of us have shown at least one of these signs at some point in our lives. Maybe we were cocky, stuck too close to our comfort zones, or talked too much without really listening. Seeing these signs isn't about criticizing, it's about getting better. Stoic philosophy teaches us that being wise doesn't mean always being right, but constantly learning, admitting our mistakes, and being willing to grow. So if you recognize any of these traits in yourself, take them as a sign to evolve and leave your comfort zone. Listen more, blame less, and be open to change. This journey isn't for the perfect, it's for the brave, the ones who can look at themselves and say, I can do better. Remember that stupidity is short-lived, but wisdom is a journey, and you're not alone on that journey. Keep growing, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep learning important lessons together.